Welcome back to Rajni Kiran, my YouTube channel. In this video, we are going to talk about the drawbacks of file-based system. That's nothing but disadvantages of file processing system or file-based system. Now, I have listed the different disadvantages that people faced when they were using file processing system. And here we go with the first one is data redundancy and inconsistency. Second is difficulty in accessing the data. Third disadvantage was data isolation. Fourth, integrity problem. Fifth one, atomicity problem. Sixth, concurrent access anomalies. And seventh is a security problem. Now let us discuss about each advantages in detail. Here we go with data redundancy. First, let me explain what is redundancy. Redundancy is having more number of copies. So it is possible that the same information may be duplicated in different files, and because of this reason, there is a chances that it may lead to data redundancy. So what happens if there is a number of copies? It is going to result in memory wastage. For example, in order to better understand this data redundancy, we go with example. And in this example, we are talking about the customer who have both kinds of accounts, that is savings account and current account. In this case, the data about the customer like customer name, customer address, customer email and his contact numbers will be duplicated in both the files, that is in savings account file as well as in current account file. This leads to the requirement of higher storage space. In other words, same information will be stored in two different locations, that is savings account file and current account file, and it wastes the memory. Now we got the clear picture about what is redundancy. Now let us see how this redundancy is going to lead us towards data inconsistency. Due to this data redundancy, as we said, number of copies, it is possible that the data may not be in a consistent state. How you can say this? For example, consider that the address of some customer changes. So that customer has both kinds of accounts, that is savings account and checking account. Now it is possible that this changed address is updated in only one file and leaving the other address in other file as it is. As a result, what happens? The same customer will have two different addresses in two different files, and this is leading us towards data inconsistency. Now let us see to the second disadvantage, that is difficulty in accessing the data. So how the people faced in accessing data in file processing system. So in file processing system or in file based system, people could not able to access the data in a convenient and efficient way. That means more responsive data retrieval systems are required for general usage. That is, a conventional file processing environment didn't allow the user to access the needed data in a convenient and efficient manner. So let us explain this point in an example. Say for example, a new bank officer came to the bank and he wants to know, or he wants to find out the names of all customers who lives within a particular postal code area. So obviously what this bank officer is going to do, he asks the data processing department to generate such a list. Because the designer of the original system did not anticipate this request or this need, hence there is no application program on hand to meet that constraint, that requirement or that need. So there are two options left over for this data processing department. One, either obtain the list of all customers and extract the needed information manually. And the second option is ask the system programmers to write the necessary application program. And when you look at these both alternatives, so they are obviously unsatisfactory. Suppose that such program is written and that several days later the same officer needs to trim that list to include only those customers who have an account balance of 10,000 or more balance. As expected, again, the program to generate such list doesn't exist. Obviously, again, the officer has to proceed two options, neither of which is satisfied. This type of problems people faced difficult when they were accessing the data. Though there is a possibility to access the data, but that accessing of the data was not so convenient and efficient enough. Now let us move to the third point, that is data isolation, that is a limited data sharing. How is it possible that data getting isolated in file processing system? Here we are going to look. Because in file processing systems or in file based systems, the data are scattered in various files, and these files have different formats, and these files may be stored in different folders or directories, and these directories may exist in different computers or different departments. So due to this, data is getting isolated, and they felt very difficult to share such isolated data among different applications. Now let us move to the next problem, that is integrity problem. Data integrity means the data contained in the database must be both correct and consistent. So for maintaining so, or for this purpose, the data stored in the database must satisfy certain constraints, or the constraints are nothing but the rules or some conditions. So for example, in order to better understand what is the constraints that we can provide to the data, so we go with an example of same banking example. A balance for an account must not be less than 0. That was the initial constraint. Such constraint was enforced in the system by adding the appropriate code in the application programs. But when the new constraints are added, such as initially we said the balance must not be less than 0. Now the new constraint has been added saying that the balance should not be less than 5,000. So the application programs need to be changed. But it is not an easy task to change the programs whenever required. So this is also one of the problem people faced, that is integrity problem, when they were dealing with file-based system. Now let us move to the next problem, that is atomicity problem. Atomicity. So let me explain what is atomic. So any operation on the database must be atomic. What does that mean? That means the operations should be executed either in its entirety, that is 100%, or not at all, that is 0%. So let us look to the better understanding with an example. A fund transfer is taking place from one account to the another. But computer system were vulnerable to failures because of system crash, or maybe because of virus attacks. There is a chances that this computer system may come up with some failures. If the system failure occurs during the execution of the fund transfer operation, it may possible that the amount to be transferred, say the amount that I wanted to transfer was rupees 500, is debited from one account, but that 500 is not credited to the another account. And this leaves the database in an inconsistent state. But it is difficult to ensure atomicity in file-based system or file processing system. Now let us move to the next disadvantage, that is concurrent access anomalies. Concurrent access means multiple users accessing the data simultaneously. So when they were accessing the data simultaneously, they were facing many problems. Anomalies means problems. So multiple users are allowed to access the data simultaneously, that is concurrently. This is for the sake, why we go for simultaneous accessing, for better performance and faster response. But this simultaneous access is leading to some problems. How to understand it? We explain with example. Consider an operation where in that operation we are withdrawing an account, and for this what we do is the program is returned to read that old balance, calculate the new balance, and write the new balance back to the database, right? Suppose let us consider an account with a balance of 5,000. Now concurrent withdrawals are taking place. So one withdrawal is 1,000 and the second withdrawal is 2,000. So if these two withdrawals are done simultaneously, then they are leaving the balance either 4,000 or 3,000 depending upon their completion time, rather than the correct value, that is 2,000. So from 5,000, if you are debiting 1,000 and again 2,000, then it has to leave the correct value as 2,000. But it is not leaving because it was accessed simultaneously. The withdrawal actions were done concurrently. Here, concurrent data access should be allowed under some supervision. But due to the lack of coordination among the different application programs, this is not possible in file processing system. And lastly, we go with the last problem, that is security problem. So database should be accessible to the users in a limited way. Each user should be allowed to access the data concerning his applications alone. For example, a customer can check the balance only for his or her own account. He or she should not have an access for the information about other accounts. But in file processing system, the application programs are added in an ad hoc manner by different programmers. So it is difficult to ensure such kind of security constraints. So these are all the disadvantages that people faced when they were using file processing system. Thank you for watching this video.